What if I told you that your £5,000 watch, your designer belt, and your luxury car are actually making rich people think that you're broke? That everything that you thought about looking successful is actually backwards. And that without realizing, you're showing everyone that you're insecure instead of wealthy. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference between genuine wealth and expensive desperation, and why the wrong luxury purchases can actually sabotage your reputation. And by the end, you'll know which items make you look poor to rich people, how to avoid showing everyone you're struggling, and what to focus on instead if you want to show real confidence. When I landed my first office job, I remember walking in on my first day wearing a fake Gucci belt that I bought off of eBay, thinking that I looked the business. The guy in the office took one look at me and asked me where I got the belt from. The way he said it made my stomach drop because I realised I wasn't fooling anyone. I was like a teenager trying to sneak into a nightclub with a fake ID. Everyone could tell that it was fake. The thing about wearing designer logos is that they're like wearing a massive neon sign saying, "Look at me and I've got money." But what I actually didn't understand back then was that truly wealthy people don't just shout about their money. The irony is, when you wear big logos, you're not just showing off, but you're working for the brand for free. You're like an unpaid influencer. When you're covered head to toe in logos looking like an F1 driver, people don't look at you and think, wow, that guy must be successful. They think you're desperate. It's the same in any area of life. If someone's constantly telling you how clever they are, you're going to think that they're insecure. Wealth works the same way. The louder someone shouts, the more they look like they're overcompensating. But it's not just about the logos themselves. There's actually a specific way that rich people can spot fake wealth from a mile away. And it's got nothing to do with how much it costs you. What if I told you that the more expensive something looks, the more likely rich people are to think that you can't afford it? Take Sam, for example. He saved up for ages to buy a £5,000 Rolex Datejust. Proper flashy. Everyone could see it from across the room. He was buzzing and he thought that he'd finally made it. Then at a work do, he met the company's biggest client. Turns out this bloke was worth like 50 million. Sam was trying to flash his new watch, expecting some kind of respect. But the millionaire took one look at it and said, Datejust. Popular with the sales lads. Sam felt like he'd just taken a body shot from Tyson Fury. He bought what he thought was a rich person's watch, but it actually bought the poor person's idea of a rich person's watch. It's like buying a Ferrari badge and then sticking it on a Ford. Everyone sees straight through it. When you buy the most expensive thing that you can barely afford, it shows. It's written all over you. Rich people notice when someone's wearing one expensive item, but everything else is clearly budget. It's like wearing a tuxedo with a beat up pair of trainers. It's not that wealthy people never buy luxury watches or designer items, because they definitely do. The difference is the reason. The ultra wealthy who wear a Rolex or own a luxury car usually aren't trying to prove anything. They just like the items, or they can afford it without blinking. It's the intent that matters. If you're buying something because you love it and it barely dents your finances, that's completely different from buying it to signal wealth that you don't actually have. And a big reason that loads of people today fall into this trap is because of social media. We're constantly bombarded with influencers flexing their cars, their holidays, and their watches. And it creates status anxiety. You start thinking you're falling behind unless you match that lifestyle. The problem is, most of the people that are showing off online are usually the ones who are struggling the most behind the scenes. The wealthy don't need to prove it on Instagram, but insecure people do. And speaking of mismatches, there's one proper giveaway that screams, "I'm pretending to be rich," louder than anything else. And most people don't even realize that they're doing it. The fastest way to look broke to a rich person is to buy luxury items that you can't actually afford. And they can tell this from a mile off. I learnt this the hard way when I was younger. I desperately wanted to look successful, so I put a £2,000 on a jacket on my credit card, thinking that it would make me look cool at meetings. But wealthy people can see this instantly. They notice when someone orders the most expensive wine but gets nervous when the bill arrives, or when someone flashes a luxury watch but their shoes are falling apart. When you're stretching financially, you can't actually hide it. It's like trying to convince people you're a master chef when you can barely boil an egg. The psychology is simple. When you're stretching financially for luxury items, you wear that stress all over you. You're constantly worried about money, checking your bank balance and making excuses. True wealth is the complete opposite. It's calm, it's confident, it's never trying too hard. Rich people buy things because they want them, not for external validation. The thing is, when you buy something trying to prove your status, it instantly creates debt instead of wealth. You end up looking rich for strangers while quietly making yourself poorer behind the scenes. But if you can't flash designer logos or expensive watches, how are you supposed to signal that you've got your life together? Recently, I joined this group where entrepreneurs play sports together. There was a guy who I played paddle with the other week who seemed pretty normal. He turned up in a simple navy jumper, basic jeans, and a watch that I've never heard of. It looked like he'd just popped a Tesco. When we got talking, it turns out he was a multi-millionaire. And the way he carried himself made complete sense. He didn't need to impress anyone. It's the same reason that you see billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg wearing the same plain grey t-shirt every day, or Warren Buffett still living in the same house he bought in the 1950s. They don't need to prove anything with logos. Their wealth speaks for itself. In fact, they often value simplicity because it frees up energy for more important decisions. The wealthy understand something that most people miss. True luxury isn't about the logo, but it's about the quality. A £500 jumper that lasts 20 years is worth so much more to them than a £200 designer one that shrinks in the wash. And look, there's nothing wrong with buying luxury if you genuinely love it and you can comfortably afford it. The key difference is whether you're buying it for yourself or for the approval of other people. The wealthy buy for joy or quality, not to prove to other people that they've made it. And this brings us to the most important realization of all, the one thing that separates people who look genuinely wealthy from the people who are just playing dress up. What does real wealth look like? It's not the watch, the car, or the brand. It's about not having to care what other people think at all. When you've got money in the bank, you're investing in your future instead of your image, that confidence shows. You stop performing, you stop chasing validation, and ironically, that's when you naturally look most successful. The harder you try to look wealthy, the poorer you actually look. But the moment you stop performing and you start building, that's when you'll naturally come across as someone who doesn't just look successful, but they actually are. After years of learning all of this the hard way, I had to completely rewire how I thought about spending money. I was trying to unlearn years of bad habits. I've developed what I call the wealth protection system. Basically, a set of rules that stop me from making the same expensive mistakes again. First up, think of credit cards like fire. A brilliant tool when used properly, but it will burn your house down if you're not careful. Before I buy anything over £200, I ask myself, if I had to pay cash for this right now, would I still want this? If the answer is no, well, then I can't afford it. The moment you put luxury on a credit card, you're not buying the item, you're renting it at a massive premium. That £1,000 designer jacket becomes £1,500 of interest. So never buy luxury items on credit unless you can afford to pay off the full amount immediately. I learned the next rule after buying an £800 pair of trainers on impulse. I saw them in the shop, fell in love with them, and then I bought them on the spot. I wore them twice in 6 months. That's £400 a wear. So before any purchase over £200, I literally walk away and sleep on it. The 24-hour rule works because it separates emotional spending from logical spending. I feel like when you're in the shop, you literally convince yourself of all the reason to buy the item and you start justifying it in crazy ways. It's like the difference between texting your ex at 2 a.m. versus texting them the next morning. Most impulse luxury purchases are just financial drunk texts. The next part of the system forces you to build wealth before you display it. You've got to earn the right to spend big. But most people, they do this backwards. They spend like they're wealthy, hoping that they'll become wealthy. It's like trying to get fit by buying expensive gym clothes whilst you're never actually exercising. So only spend on luxury what represents 1% or less of your actual net worth. Not your salary, your net worth. So if you're worth £50,000 total, your luxury budget is a max of £500 for any item. Before any big purchase, I calculate what that money could be doing if I invested it instead. So that £3,000 watch, in a stock market averaging 7% returns, that becomes £6,000 in 10 years and £12,000 in 20 years. Suddenly, the watch doesn't just cost £3,000, it costs £12,000 in future money. Finally, the most important question you need to ask yourself: would I still want this if absolutely no one could see it? If you wouldn't buy that designer belt to rock around your house, then you're not buying it for you, you're buying it for other people's opinions. But even if you can walk into a room and now spot all of the fake wealth knocking around, you might still have no clue where you actually stand in that room in terms of real wealth. Recent research shows that people are completely wrong about their own wealth position, which means you can be making all the right moves, but heading in the completely wrong direction. So watch this video here to learn exactly where you stand compared to other Brits and what that means for your next financial moves.